Welcome back to Words of the Week. In the month of October, there is such thing as the National Cake Decorating Day. Have you ever decorated a cake before? So there's professional cake decorators, but there's a lot of people that just love decorating their own cakes at home. So let's check out some of the words for this week. So this sheet will be located on my website as well as Teachers Pay Teachers. So I will put both of those links down below. This week we're doing something a little bit different. I am using a different font, which is a simpler version of American Cursive. So if you have been writing with me for a while, you will see a difference in the letters where they have taken out the loops. So I will be doing videos that will have both the regular American Cursive as well as the simplified version, and you can just pick what you prefer. All right, they're both okay to use and very similar. The only difference is they took out the loops. So let's get started. The first word is frosting. Big loop up, big line down, loop, tail, and right into the R. Little line up, diagonal, down, tail, and then curve into that O. Circle, loop, tail, right into the S, little line up, bump, tail, T, big line up, down, I, little line up, down, tail into the N, little line down, up, bump, down, curve into the G, circle up, big loop down, and tail. Make sure you cross that T and dot your I. Frosting. Do you like eating frosting as much as I do? I have to admit, I love eating frosting. But remember, we are going to write the word freehand right next to the one that we just traced. So I hope you are in a comfortable position. You are sitting up straight. You have a nice table in front of you. I actually hold my pencil, you can see it just kind of lays on that second finger, and I use my pointer and my thumb to hold it in place. But I have to remind myself to not hold my pencil too tightly because then my hand gets tired. So if your hand gets tired, just remind yourself to not hold your pencil too tight. All right, next word is icing spatula. So when you go to put on the frosting, or some people call it icing, you use a spatula, which you could see here on our cover sheet. Little line up, down, curve into the C, bump, tail, another I, tail, little line down, up, bump, down, and curve into the G, circle around, up, big loop down, tail. Dot those two, and spatula. Little line up, bump, tail, little line up, big line down, bump, tail, and curve into the A. Bump, up, down, tail, and a T. Then little line up, down, bump, up, down, tail for the U, big loop up for the A, L, curve into the A, bump, up, down, tail. Now, you can see that there isn't enough space here to write freehand. So in any of these videos that you do with me when we come across this, I will not write it a second time, but I do hope that you will. And you can do that by turning it over, and you can see some of the lines through the paper, or just get a blank piece of notebook paper. Okay, so I'm trusting that you will go back and write freehand. Same with buttercream. Okay, we have some longer words today. So buttercream is just a type of frosting. Big loop up, down, bump, tail right into the U. little line down, bump, up, down, tail, 2 T's. Little loop in the E, tail into the R. Little line up, diagonal, down, tail, and curve into the C. Bump, tail, another R, another E, little loop around, curve into that A, bump, up, down, tail, and an M. So it's tail, little line down, up, bump, little line down, up, bump, little line down, and tail. Again, make sure you flip that over and write it again. This word, isn't that silly looking? It's ganache. It too is a type of frosting. I believe it's chocolate frosting, if I remember correctly. Circle around, up, big loop down, and curve into the A. Bump, up, down, tail, tail, little line down, up, bump, down, and tail for the N. Another A, curve into the C, and a big loop up, bump, down, tail for the H, little loop around for the E. This one I will write again. Have fun with this cursive. You are an artist when you are writing in cursive, just like I think cake decorators are artists. Royal icing. I thought it sounded pretty cool, so that's why I put it on the list, but I'm not remembering what royal icing is. It just sounds super fancy, doesn't it? So little line up, diagonal, down, curve into that O, circle, loop, tail, and then right into that Y. Little line down, bump up, loop, and curve again into this A, bump, up, down, tail, and a big loop for the L. Then icing, little line up, down, curve into the C, little line up, down, tail, into the N, bump, down, tail, and curve into the G. Big loop down. I'm going to write the word royal again, but you can turn your paper over and write the whole thing. I just like the look of that word. Okay, next one is piping bags and tips. So again, on the front here, here's a piping bag. This is a tip right here, and that's what helps cake decorators make all these beautiful edges, flowers, and decorations with piping bags and tips. So it's a big line down, up, bump, tail right into the eye, up, big line down, up, bump, tail, and another eye, then tail, little line down, bump, little line, curve into the G, bump, up, down, loop, tail. Now you're going to notice, dot those 2 eyes, we have a lot of the same letters in today's lesson, which is really great. Getting lots of good practice. So bags, big loop up, down, curve, tail, and curve into the A. Bump, up, down, tail, curve into the G. Bump, up, down, and then big loop down into the S, little line, bump, tail. This is called an ampersand. That's a fancy word for this little symbol here, but it's just another way of saying and. And it just helps me to make a little extra space in here instead of writing the word and. Tips, big line up, down, little line up, down, another P, and another S. Again, make sure you flip it over and write it again. Sprinkles, little line up, bump, tail up, big line up, bump, tail, R, little line, little line, little line, I, tail, little line down, up, bump, down, and we're going to do a K. So a big loop up, down, up, big loop, big tail right into that L. E and an S. Little line, bump, tail. Sprinkles. So for those of you, again, that have been writing with me using the traditional American cursive, you can see a few of the letters that are a little bit different, but it's really not too much different. Okay, last one, a cake turntable. Now this is something that cake decorators, they'll put a cake on a turntable so they can turn it while they're doing that piping or putting the frosting on instead of having to, it just makes it a little bit easier for them to work. So bump, tail, curve into the A, bump, up, down, tail, another K. Big loop up, down, big loop, big tail right into that E. Big line up, down, little line bump, little line tail, and an R. Little line up, diagonal, down, tail, little line bump, little line tail, another T. You're going to be a pro at these A's. Curve, bump, up, down, tail, L, B, bump, and then it goes right into the L, and little loop, tail. Sometimes when I'm giving instructions in my classes or like when I do these videos and my eyes are going along, sometimes I get one letter ahead. So if I pause or if I have to correct myself, it's just because I'm looking to the next letter. So I hope you had fun talking a little bit about National Cake Decorating Day and all the yummy words that we worked on. Keep up the great practice, and we'll see you next time for a whole new set of words of the week.